Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into a world where bathing was suspicious water, could make you sicker than mud, and a good day meant your lice didn't bite too hard. You're about to slip into the skin of a medieval peasant, where soap was a luxury, toilets were holes in the ground, and privacy was a myth. The air stinks of sweat, manure, and soot. Your skin is rough, your hair matted, and your clothes it's best not to speak of what lives in them. Welcome to hygiene in the Middle Ages. You probably won't survive this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, post your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing where you're tuning in from. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The moment you open your eyes, the smell hits you. It's thick, tangy, familiar in the worst way. You're lying on a straw mattress that's flattened into a mat of pokey stalks and grayish dust. It's warm from your body heat, damp underneath from... You don't want to think about it. Around you, your siblings are still asleep, tangled together, like puppies, breathing softly through mouths half open. You pull your tunic down, it's ridden up again, and sit up slowly, cracking your neck. Your skin itches, everywhere. You scratch your arm through the coarse wool and wince. The bite is back, lice probably, or maybe fleas. You gave up keeping track. It's just part of the routine now. Wake up, scratch, shift, ignore. You rub your eyes, but your hands are coated in yesterday's grime. Soot from the hearth, grease from last night's stew. The dirt never leaves your skin, not fully. No one has truly clean hands. The only thing that comes close to washing is rain, and even that just rearranges the filth. You glance at the basin in the corner. The water inside is cloudy with a slick film dancing on top. It hasn't been changed in days, maybe weeks, but your mother insists it's still good enough to splash on your face. A quick rinse, she says, just to start the day right. You dip your fingers in and flinch. It's freezing. The chill helps, though. You cup a bit and splash your cheeks. The water smells faintly of cabbage. You don't ask why. Your breath fogs in the air. Outside, the sky is pale gray. Dawn. The hearth has burned low overnight, and your father is already crouched beside it, poking at the coals with a stick. He blows, gently coaxes a few sparks to life. When the flame catches, he adds some dried dung and straw. The smoke curls upward, filling the room with its bitter scent. Your mother shuffles to the fire next. She takes the kettle and pours in what's left from yesterday's bucket. The water hisses as it touches the iron. A bundle of dried herbs, rosemary, and something unidentifiable is added next. You've heard it helps with the smell. Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. You're used to it either way. The house is one room. Everyone shares everything. No doors, no privacy. If someone has to relieve themselves, they use the chamber pot in the corner. If it's full, they find the midden out back. A pit. Flies. A thick, sour stench that sticks to your nostrils like pitch. You step outside to do just that. The mud squelches beneath your bare feet, mixing with who knows what. The air is cold and damp. Chickens cluck nearby, already scratching at the earth for worms. You squat behind a hedge, eyes darting for movement. Snakes, rats, neighbors. When you finish, you use a handful of moss and wipe your hands on your tunic. It'll dry. No one talks about wiping or washing after. It's not expected. Soap exists, some kind of slippery gray stuff made from ash and lard, but it's for special occasions or church days. Maybe weddings. You've only used it twice in your life. Both times left your skin dry and red for days. Inside again, the fire is stronger. The warmth pulls you in. You huddle near it with your siblings holding your hands out until they tingle. Your brother is scratching his scalp, hard head tilted to catch the light. You see something move in his hair. A louse. He crushes it between his fingernails and shrugs. He hands you the comb. Its bone-carved, roughly teeth chipped. You take it and begin scraping through your own hair. It's slow, painful work. Knots pull. Dandruff flakes fall onto your shoulders. Every now and then you catch a dark speck and flick it into the fire. It pops when it hits the coals. Your mother braids her hair tightly, wrapping it under a cloth. Your father smooths his beard with wet fingers. That's the extent of grooming, no mirrors, no perfume. Cleanliness isn't about appearance. It's about keeping the filth from winning completely. Breakfast is a crust of bread dipped in weak ale. The bread is hard enough to crack a tooth, and the ale tastes sour, but it's safer than water. The stream down the hill is brown after last week's rain, stirred with manure from upstream farms. You know a boy who drank from it last summer. He died within a day. You chew slowly, jaw sore. Your teeth ache. A molar has started to rot. It throbs in rhythm with your heartbeat. There's no one to pull it. Not unless you want the blacksmith to try. The day's work begins and you follow your father to the fields. You pass other villagers nodding. Everyone looks the same, smudged, stooped, layered in filth. The smell is collective. It's on their breath, in their clothes, under their fingernails. You can't escape it. You are part of it. You see a woman beating laundry by the river, arms red to the elbow. Her washboard is a plank. Her soap a ball of wood ash and pig fat. She scrubs hard, then lifts a tunic and holds it up to the light. It still looks gray. She sighs and keeps scrubbing. You keep walking. Your tunic, for what it's worth, hasn't been washed in a month. Maybe longer. When it rains, you hang it near the door. That counts. You wonder sometimes what it would feel like to be clean. Truly clean. Not just washed by the weather or scraped with a comb, but immersed naked in warm water soap in your hair, every pore free of dirt. You can't imagine it. So you stop. You reach the field and take your hoe. The mud is thick today. The blisters on your hands open again. You wipe the blood on your sleeve. You scratch your scalp. You start to work. Your hands are already filthy before the sun fully clears the trees. Earth cakes your fingernails, lines the creases of your knuckles, fills the small cracks on your fingers that never seem to heal. You grip the handle of your hoe anyway. The splinters have worn smooth from years of use. You don't think about it much. Hygiene and field work do not belong in the same sentence. The fields smell like damp soil manure and sweat the honest odor of peasant life. The Lord's oxen passed through yesterday, leaving ruts and heaps along the path. You step around the fresh piles without blinking. You've stepped in worse. There's no washing station, no gloves, no changing room. If your tunic gets too wet, it clings. If it tears, it stays torn. You'll mend it later with your mother's bone needle and black thread salvaged from an older garment. Clothes are patched again and again until they become a quilt of past years, familiar and stiff with time. You stop to wipe your brow with your sleeve. Your skin, slick with sweat, carries layers of embedded dirt. It never comes off fully, not with rain, not with river water, not with the occasional scrub. You've seen villagers scrub until their arms bled. Still the grime clung in their skin's folds like it belonged there, like it was part of them. You work silently beside your father, both of you bent low to the soil. The sun climbs and flies gather. They swarm your face, land on your arms, drink sweat from the corners of your eyes. You swat them away over and over. Their persistence is maddening, but so routine it barely warrants a curse. You break for water. Not from the stream you know better. There's a shared bucket in the village fetched from the least polluted spring, if you can call anything clean. You ladle out a drink with a gourd. The rim is cracked, the inside a little slimy. You drink anyway. The taste is metallic, vaguely mossy, but it wets your throat. That's enough. Your lips are chapped. Everyone's are. You run your tongue across the cracks and taste iron. You wipe your mouth with the back of your hand, and return to work. Midday brings food, a wedge of rye bread dense and dark with a smear of lard if you're lucky. Your fingers leave smudges on the crust, and you eat around the grit without complaining. The bread itself is coarse, often containing fragments of husk or even small stones from the grindstone. You've chipped a tooth before. You don't want to repeat it. After eating, you rest beneath a tree, but not for long. Your tunic sticks to your back with sweat. You scratch under your arms, behind your knees, between your toes. Itchy, always itchy. The bites bloom like angry little welts. Your sister once had scabies. Her whole body blistered and peeled like bark. It took months to clear, and even now, her legs bear the scars. You look down and notice the rash forming around your waistband. Heat, sweat, cloth that's never truly dry. You'll soak in the river later. Maybe, if your mother lets you. Washing clothes is an ordeal. There's no soap unless someone has bartered for it lard mixed with wood ash boiled and cooled into a waxy gray lump that crumbles on contact. Most of the time, your mother scrubs garments with sand, or rocks, beats them on flat stones, and hangs them in the sun. The water she uses is brown by the end, thick with suds and soil. Even after all that, the clothes are only cleaner in comparison. They still carry the stench of smoke and sweat clinging to every fiber. The smell never truly leaves. When the wind shifts just right, you catch it in the folds of your sleeves. Your own odor multiplied by days, weeks, months. Bathing isn't part of your daily life. It's not even weekly. It happens when it must, when a rash gets too bad, when the lice become unbearable, when someone's wedding is coming and they want to smell like something other than livestock. You remember the last time. It was summer. Your mother hauled water from the stream, boiled it with herbs, and poured it into a wooden tub in the yard. Everyone took turns. You went last. The water was cold and gray by then, floating with skin flakes, stray hairs and suds from the soap your mother had hoarded for weeks. Still, you remember how good it felt. Just for a moment. Your skin tingled. Your scalp stopped itching. Your fingernails looked pink again. You almost felt new. That lasted maybe a day. The next morning, you woke to a flea bite on your thigh and a louse tickling your collarbone. The world had returned to normal. You snap out of your thoughts and head toward the animal pens. The pigs need slop. You carry a bucket filled with vegetable scraps, moldy bread, and whatever your mother swept from the corners of the floor. The stench is unbearable. You gag but keep walking. The pigs squeal when they see you, snouts pressed against the fence, eyes rolling. You dump the slop into the trough. Some of it spills onto your feet. You scrape your boot against a rock, but the residue sticks. It will stay until rain washes it off. Back inside the hut, your mother picks lice from your youngest brother's head. Her fingers move quickly, pinching and crushing between her nails. He sits quietly staring into the fire. He knows better than to complain. It's not pain, it's just life. Your sister combs her hair with the bone comb, wincing as it pulls through the snarls. The comb's teeth are worn thin, but they still work. You see the tiny dots falling to her lap. She brushes them off without a word. Later, you find a moment to sneak behind the house and strip to your waist. You stand by the rain barrel and splash cold water onto your chest. It shocks you awake. You rub your skin with your hands using sand to scrub. The grit helps. You rinse, shiver, and shake yourself dry. There's no towel, just air and sun. Your clothes go back on while you're still damp. They chafe. The itch returns. But for a moment, just a moment, you smell like rainwater and dust. You lean against the wall and close your eyes. And for the first time in days, your skin doesn't crawl. The relief doesn't last. By morning, the itching is back. Worse than before. The damp clothes you wore after rinsing at the rain barrel never quite dried overnight. The fabric clings to your skin now crusted with dust and tightened from the sun. The salt from your own sweat has stiffened the collar, and as you move, it scratches your neck like sandpaper. You sit up from the straw bed, wincing. Your back feels like it's been scraped with a rake. Tiny bites pepper your shoulders. You reach around fingertips, finding the familiar bumps, red, swollen, angry. Lice again. Or fleas. Maybe mites. It's hard to say. The vermin don't send notices before they arrive. The straw mattress itself is part of the problem. It's been in use for months now, maybe longer. Straw isn't changed often. Restuffing means time, effort, and dry straw, none of which are plentiful. So you sleep on the old flattened stuff, matted with your sweat, your siblings' drool, and the natural leavings of a family that shares one bed and little else. Your mother sprinkles dried herbs into the straw, sometimes lavender, mint, rosemary. It helps mask the smell for a day or two. But not even the strongest herbs can overpower the scent of unwashed bodies sharing heat every night. It's the smell of living, you suppose, at least of surviving. You pull on your tunic and scratch your head, working at the same sore spot you attacked yesterday. It's raw now, but stopping isn't an option. The lice are busy. So are you. Outside, the sun's just cresting the rooftops. Mist hovers over the thatched houses, and the muddy lanes are still quiet. The hens are already scratching the earth near the fence posts, and the dog is gnawing on a bone that was probably stolen from the midden heap. The morning task is simple: refill the family's water barrel. The spring is a quarter-mile away, and the pail is heavy even before it's full. You balance it on your hip and walk carefully, trying not to slosh. By the time you return, your tunic is soaked with sweat under your arms. You pour the water into the barrel, watching the ripples settle. It's slightly greenish. There's something floating in it. A leaf. A bug. You skim it off with a stick and don't think too much about it. The water's for rinsing, not drinking. Drinking comes from ale or from the clear stream farther out, if it hasn't turned foul again. Inside, your mother is tending to your brother. He's scratching too. She's inspecting his scalp with a practiced eye, picking nits from his hair and crushing them with her thumbnail. The cracking sound is quiet but unmistakable. She looks up. "You're next," she says. You sigh and sit. She combs through your hair slowly, carefully. The bone comb tugs at the knots. When she hits a snag, she pulls harder. Your scalp stings, but you don't flinch. Flinching just makes her mad. You grit your teeth and stare at the hearth. The fire has burned down to glowing coals. Ash dusts the stones like gray flour. The pot above it holds the morning's meal, more barley gruel maybe, with crushed garlic or a sliver of last week's onion. The smell is bland, earthy, with a hint of smoke. When she finishes your hair, your mother leans back and sighs. "You're lucky, not too many new ones." You nod, but you know they'll be back by nightfall. Later, while turning the compost behind the hut, you spot movement along your forearm, tiny legs shiny black. A flea. You pinch it between your fingers and crush it. Then another, and another. You rub your arms down with crushed thyme from the window box. It won't kill them, but it makes your skin tingle and smell stronger than the animals. You glance at the pig pen. Even the pigs look cleaner than you feel. As the sun climbs higher, the village starts to smell like itself again. It's always there, but the heat brings it out. Human sweat, dung mold, rotting straw, stale smoke, and wet wool. You've lived with it your whole life. You don't notice it unless something changes, like when strangers come through. This afternoon, a trader rides into the village leading a cart stacked with pots, wooden tools, and cloth. He looks different, taller. His boots shine. His hair is oiled and tied back with string. He doesn't smell like the village. He smells clean. You and the others watch him from a distance. He offers combs, needles, even cakes of soap, real soap white and wrapped in linen. Your mother eyes it warily. The price is steep, 2 eggs and a pouch of dried apples. She shakes her head. Not today. You ask her what it's made of. Tallow, she says, with lye. Maybe herbs. Maybe goat milk if he's honest. You nod, pretending to understand. The trader leaves before sunset. You follow his cart to the edge of the village, breathing in the faint trace of lavender and smoke that trails behind him. That night, your mother boils the water for washing. Not for a bath, just enough to wipe down arms and legs with a rag. You take turns dipping the cloth into the pot and running it over your skin. The water turns brown quickly. The rag is shared. You go last. You clean as best you can. Knees, elbows, neck. You dip the cloth again and wipe your face. The warmth feels good. Your skin, though red from friction, breathes for the first time in days. You change into your other tunic. It's no cleaner, but it's different. That's something. Your mother tucks the children into the straw, then adds another log to the fire. She rubs her hands together, then draws a cross over her chest and mutters a prayer. You copy her without thinking. It's not for health, not for safety, just for sleep. You curl up on the mat, scratch your shoulder one last time, and close your eyes. Outside, the lice are still waiting, and so is tomorrow. You wake before dawn to the slow creaking of the wooden door. Your father steps out first, his silhouette briefly outlined by the sliver of gray morning light. You know what this means. Latrine duty. The midden pit behind the house has reached its limit. Today, you'll be emptying the chamber pots and hauling refuse to the village heap. You groan but roll over anyway, brushing straw from your hair. The tunic you put on yesterday, your clean one, is already wrinkled and stiff again. No surprise. You wore it to bed, and sweat doesn't know the difference between day and night. The house is quiet. Everyone still sleeps curled together under patched wool blankets. You step softly over your youngest brother and make your way to the corner where the pot waits. It's heavy, sloshing, and the smell is enough to make your stomach tighten. You lift it carefully, holding your breath through your nose. There's no real sanitation in your world. No underground pipes, no sewage system. Just pits, ditches, and the constant threat of overflow. Some families dump their waste too close to their own gardens. Others have no choice, land is limited. But everyone pays the same price: disease. You carry the pot outside, balancing it with both hands. The mud underfoot is slippery from last night's rain. You take small, deliberate steps, hoping not to spill. A tumble would mean not just the shame, but the stench sticking to your skin for days. Behind the huts, you reach the shared dump, an open trench lined with sodden straw and swarming with flies. The air is thick with decay. You dump the pot's contents in and step back quickly. The splash nearly reaches your boots. You turn to go, already dreading the trip back. A girl your age walks past, carrying her own pot. You nod. She nods. No one speaks about this work, but everyone does it. Once the chore is finished, you rinse the pot at the stream. You know it doesn't help. Not really. The water swirls brown as you dunk it. You scrub with sand, and your fingernails then leave it in the sun to dry. That's as clean as it will get. You return home, your hands raw from the cold water. You sit by the hearth, rubbing them together, watching your mother boil water for breakfast. The kettle bubbles with barley gruel again, thinned with yesterday's leftover broth. It smells faintly sour. She stirs it with a wooden spoon that's gone dark from years of use. After you eat, your father hands you a broom made from bundled twigs. "Sweep the floor," he says, "and the corners." You nod. The floor is dirt, of course. You're not sweeping to clean it, just to shift the layers of ash straw, food crumbs, and mouse droppings that accumulate each week. You push the debris toward the door, where you scrape it out with your boot. The fresh air outside catches a puff of dust and carries it into the sunlight. In the corners, it's worse. Clumps of old hair, crushed bugs, mold creeping up the wooden beams. You spot a dried rat's tail poking from beneath a broken tile. You poke it with the broom, nudge it out. The dog trots over and sniffs it, unimpressed. When you finish, you wipe your forehead with your sleeve and go outside to wash your hands. But the barrel is low. Only a few inches of water remain, full of floating specks and an oily sheen. You dip your fingers in anyway. There's no soap, so you rub them together hard, then wipe them on your tunic. You tell yourself it's clean enough. Later, you help your mother scour the cooking pot with a handful of saltend. You tip it sideways and grind the grit against the iron, making circles until the soot begins to lift. Then she pours boiling water over it, and steam rises in a thick column, carrying the scent of scorched grain. The pot hisses. You hold your breath and scrape with a stick. That afternoon, someone in the village falls ill. You hear the whispers, first fever, shaking foul breath. Your mother frowns and sends your sister to fetch elderberry syrup from the shelf. It's old, thick, fermented into something like wine. She pours it into a clay cup and adds honey. She sends it to the sick man's family. But it's fear, not medicine, that fills the air now. When people get sick, you don't know why. You only know how it ends. Sometimes it passes, sometimes it stays, sometimes it spreads. No one talks of germs. You talk of miasma. Bad air. You burn herbs to clear it, sage, lavender, rosemary. You hang bundles above doorways and pray. That night, your mother insists everyone wipe their feet with vinegar. She rubs your hands with a cloth soaked in it too. It stings the cuts in your palms, but leaves behind a sharp, clean smell. You breathe it in and feel a little safer. Still, you don't sleep well. You dream of rats, of swollen faces, of fires in the street and bells tolling endlessly. You wake before dawn again, eyes gritty, mouth dry. The lice are back. You feel them along your scalp, behind your ears, in the seams of your tunic. You scratch. You scratch harder. When the sun rises, you go outside, stripped to your waist, and stand in the dew. You rub your skin with mint leaves from the garden. It helps for a while. Then you take the broom again and start sweeping. Just like yesterday. Just like tomorrow. The 5th day of the week always smells the worst. It's when everyone's chores have piled up, when the latrine pit is near brimming again, and when the water barrel has been refilled just enough times to be murky with backwash and bugs. The hearth hasn't been cleaned all week, so the air inside the hut feels like smoke ash and sour breath. You wake up choking on it. Not dramatically, just the same way you always do. A few dry coughs, a swipe at your eyes, the usual scratch behind your ears. You reach down to your calves and notice that the rash is spreading again. The skin is hot, puffy, itchy. You press your nails into it and bite your lip to keep from making a sound. Your mother will look at it later, maybe. She'll mash up some garlic with pig fat and smear it on. That's helped in the past. But for now, there's work. You stumble outside into the crisp morning, the air damp and a little kinder than usual. A soft mist rolls in over the fields. It smells faintly of dung and wet hay, better than what's inside the house. You breathe deeply as though fresh air alone could scrub your lungs. The animals have started waking up too. Chickens fluff their feathers and leave droppings wherever they please. The pigs grunt and jostle, already filthy from the night their pen ankle-deep in mud and something worse. You grab a rake and begin scraping out the worst of it, piling it off to the side, hoping the rain won't wash it back in. You wipe sweat from your brow, and your fingers come away streaked with filth. You look at them for a moment. Nails ragged, palms cracked and blackened at the creases. This is clean by your standards. You've seen worse. Bath day is coming, but not for you. It's for the whole household. Once a month, if weather and time allow. Your mother has already begun boiling water, which means someone managed to find enough firewood yesterday. It takes hours cutting the wood building, the fire hauling the water from the stream, waiting for the tub to fill. Your father carried it in last night, a large wooden basin that sits near the hearth like a sacred object. It's stained gray from years of use, warped at one end, and smells faintly of ash and mold. You watch the steam rise from the kettle and know what it means. You're second to last in the queue. Your youngest brother always goes first. He splashes giggles, complains about the heat, then gets scrubbed raw by your mother's hands. She hums while she works, though her back aches and her hands are red from hot water. Next is your sister. She's older than your brother, but not quite old enough to bathe alone. You watch her drag the bar of soap, a tiny lump of ash lard, and dried rosemary across her arms. She winces as it scrapes her skin, then rinses quickly, splashing water over the edge of the basin. You're called next. You undress near the fire. Modesty isn't a luxury in this house. Everyone sees everyone always. You ease yourself into the tub, hissing through your teeth as your raw skin meets the hot water. It's already cloudy. Bits of straw float in it. You pretend not to notice the thin film clinging to the rim. You rub your arms with the leftover soap. It slips through your fingers and vanishes into the water. You reach down to retrieve it, but come back with a handful of grit. You try again. No luck. So you rinse. With your hands, as always. Your mother hands you the comb, and you begin dragging it through your wet hair. The teeth catch. You grit your teeth and keep going. With each pull, you feel something loosen, dirt, dandruff, lice. You see one float on the surface of the water. You look away. Afterward, you dry off with the same cloth everyone else uses. It's damp and smells faintly of mildew, but it's better than the breeze. You put your tunic back on, still dirty, but now your skin is clean enough to notice the difference. Your father takes his turn last. By then, the water is cold, gray, and thick with whatever came off the rest of you. But he lowers himself into it anyway, groaning as his knees creak. He washes quickly, efficiently, his eyes half closed. Then he dumps the basin outside and pours the rest into the garden. Your mother scrubs the empty basin with straw and ash. It won't be used again for weeks. That night, the air inside the house feels different, cleaner. Not truly clean, but better. The children's hair shines faintly in the firelight. The dog even smells a bit less like damp fur and more like, well, something approaching neutral. You sit near the fire, letting the heat dry your skin. You run your fingers through your hair and feel the difference, smooth, not crawling. It won't last long. You know that. But for tonight, you feel human again. Then your brother scratches his leg and mutters about itching. You glance over. Already your sister says, "He nods." "I think so." Everyone sighs. You laugh just once quietly. Because what else can you do? The bath is done. The lice are back. And tomorrow you go back to the field. The next day starts with a scratch. Then another. By the time you've reached the hen house to collect eggs, your scalp is on fire again. One of the lice must have survived the bath, probably more than one. You can feel them roaming bold and brazen, as if the hot water yesterday was just a mild inconvenience to their tiny, determined kingdom. You hunch down, hand in the straw nest, fingers blindly searching under feathers and fluff. A hen pecks at your knuckles, and you hiss, pulling back. She squawks like you've insulted her ancestors. You wait until she calms, then try again. 2 eggs warm and intact. You wipe them on your tunic and tuck them into your pouch. Inside the hut, your sister is already combing her hair with that same bone comb. It's still damp from being rinsed in vinegar the night before. You sit down near her, the fire warming your feet, and she silently passes the comb when she's done. You begin the slow, painful ritual. Tug, flinch, snap, tug again. You inspect the teeth after each pass. Tiny gray bodies stuck in the grooves. One flick of your fingernail and they're gone, tossed into the fire without ceremony. Your mother is boiling linens today. A great black pot steams above the hearth, filled with water lie ash and strips of cloth that are more whole than fabric. The smell is sharp smoke, wet wool, sour sweat, and something biting. She stirs the pot with a stick almost as tall as you are, and the bubbles rise like swamp gas. "Wash day," she mutters mostly to herself. "Washing death off rags." That's what she always says. It's a joke, kind of. But it's also not. Every week she boils the cloth to chase off the worst of what clings to it. Not just the dirt or fleas, but the sickness, the rot, the smell of hard labor that lingers long after the body has stopped moving. You help by wringing out the linens once they're pulled from the pot. They burn your hands. The steam fogs your eyes. You twist with all your might, then hang them over a line strung across the room. The whole house takes on the smell, clean in its own way, but also harsh and chemical. You'll smell of lye for days. Outside, the neighbor's child is being deloused. You hear the crying before you see her sharp, desperate little sobs that cut through the morning. Her mother sits on a stool with a clay bowl of vinegar and oil parting hair, with a wooden comb and a level of determination that borders on rage. The child whimpers, but holds still. She knows resistance will make it worse. You see the same girl at church each week, her head wrapped in cloth, her face quiet. You never talk to her. But today, as you pass, you nod. She nods back. There's no shame in scratching, only in pretending you don't. Later, your father returns from the forest with an armful of pine branches. He dumps them near the door and nods at you to help strip the needles. You kneel beside him, pulling the green, sharp bristles from each branch and piling them into a basket. They'll go in the straw bedding tonight to ward off pests. It's not perfect, but it helps for a while. You learn to mix them with dried rosemary and crushed yarrow. Your mother spreads it beneath the fresh straw, muttering under her breath. Her hands move quickly, always aware of time and how little of it there is before the next infestation sets in. That evening, you do something rare. You clean your nails. You sit outside with a sliver of flat bone scraping under each fingernail, watching the black gunk flake away. Dirt, lard, smoke, blood from a nicked blister. You finish, then rub a bit of vinegar into your hands just to feel like you're doing something useful. Your father looks over at you and raises an eyebrow. Getting fancy. You smirk and shake your head, trying not to rot. He nods once, understanding. You go inside and help your mother with the foot wash. Another rare event saved for times when the house smells too strongly of sweat and field mold. Everyone lines up near the hearth. One basin, one rag, a splash of water warmed with mint. You take your turn, soaking your feet, scrubbing between your toes, drying them on the same cloth your sister just used. Your toes are red skin cracking near the nails. You have a patch of athlete's rot. Your mother notices and rubs on a salve made from sheep fat and vinegar. It stings, but you don't complain. Clean is not about pleasant smells. It's not about freshness. It's about survival. After the washing, you all sit by the fire and chew dried peas and leftover bread. The candle burns low. The dog lies near your feet, scratching. The fleas are always busy. Your mother tells a story about the time she visited a manor kitchen years ago before she married. She says the servants there had real soap. Scented, she swears. Made with honey and bay leaves. They bathed every few days in a copper tub. Her voice turns dreamy for a moment. Then she shrugs. They were still covered in boils, she says. Same lice, just shinier buckets. You laugh. So does your sister. And then the hut goes quiet again. Outside, the frogs begin their nightly song. You listen to it while picking at a splinter in your thumb. The skin there is raw, but the pain is familiar. You curl up under the straw bedding, now filled with fresh pine. It smells sharp. Better. You close your eyes, and you don't even itch. Not yet. By the 7th day, the pine needles under your straw bedding have flattened, crushed into soft, fragrant dust. They still smell faintly of the forest, but the itch is returning. Not the furious crawling of lice, though you know they'll be back soon enough, but the deeper kind. The ache in your scalp from dryness, the chafing at the back of your knees, where damp wool rubs bare skin, the sting around your wrists and neck, where your tunic's coarse seams dig into you day after day without relief. Still you rise with less resistance than usual. The air is warmer. You slept through the night without a cough. Even your mother looks less drawn as she folds away the linens that steamed above the fire all week. They're stiff and slightly yellowed, but smell only of lye now, not of mildew, nor the shadow of illness. Today is market day. Not for buying, your family has nothing to trade this week. But your father is helping carry sacks of grain for the reeve, and your mother's been asked to look after a neighbor's infant while they travel. It's a small break in the routine, and in its own way, that's precious. You're sent to the stream to wash. Not for bathing, just your hands, your arms, your face. Don't look like a corpse, your mother says not unkindly. You walk the path barefoot, as always your soul's already hardened from seasons of stone and straw. The stream is running stronger now. Spring melt from the distant hills. The water is cold, clear, and biting. You squat by the edge, splash your arms up to the elbows, and use sand and moss to scrub. It takes effort to get beneath the nails to rub away the lines of ash embedded in your knuckles. Your reflection shimmers in the water, mud-smudged cheeks, dry lips, red eyes rimmed with sleep. but the coolness helps. You feel more awake now, more alive. On the way back, you stop at Marta's old hut. The herbalist's door still hangs ajar, though she's been gone these many months. Her granddaughter, barely older than you, has taken to sitting on the threshold, with bunches of dried thyme and lavender in her lap. She waves you over. "Hold out your hands," she says. You obey. She rubs something between your palms, oil mixed with crushed mint maybe, or rosemary. It smells strong, clean. Your skin soaks it up like dry cloth. "It won't cure the lice," she says, grinning, "but it might make them hate you." You thank her and keep walking, hands lifted, breathing in the scent like a secret blessing. Back at the hut, your mother is already combing your brother's hair, checking for nits. You take your turn next without being asked. The bone comb drags through your scalp, each tug a reminder that clean is never complete. Just a temporary pause, a breath between infestations. Later, the church bell rings, calling everyone to the weekly service. You dress in your second tunic, the one with fewer patches, and tie a leather cord around your waist to keep it from dragging in the dust. Inside the chapel, it's cool and dim. The walls smell of damp stone and old incense. People press together on benches, all in varying states of grime and fatigue. But today, you notice something strange. They don't smell quite so bad. Maybe it's the open door. Maybe it's the rosemary bundles the priest has placed along the aisle. Or maybe everyone in their own way made an effort this morning. The priest speaks of Lazarus, of suffering and salvation. You only half listen. Your mind drifts to the way your mother rinsed her hands 3 times before slicing bread today, or how your sister used ashes to scrub a clay bowl until it shone. Little gestures. Not holy, perhaps, but sacred in their own way. After the service, the square fills with murmurs and motion. Someone's brought soap to trade, real soap made from goat tallow and lavender oil. It sits in a wrapped cloth on the edge of a stall like a jewel. Everyone stares. Few ask the price. You pass by it once, twice, then again. You can still smell the oil Marta's granddaughter rubbed on you earlier. You decide that's enough. You carry your brother home on your back. He's drowsy from the long prayers and too much bread. His face presses against your shoulder. He's warm and breathing slow. You remember when he was sick last winter, his cheeks flushed, his breath like steam. That was when the house smelled of vinegar and garlic and dread. Now it smells of lye straw and smoke again, and you're grateful for that. That evening, your mother lights a candle even though oil is running low. She says it's good to burn one sometimes just to clean the air. She trims the wick with a knife and the flame flickers cleanly, no sputtering, no smoke. You help her scrub the last of the day's dishes, a wooden bowl, a clay cup, the iron ladle. No soap, just hot water and coarse salt. You dry them with a cloth that's been hung near the fire for hours. They're not spotless, but they don't need to be. They're clean enough for morning. Before bed, your father reaches into a sack and tosses fresh straw onto the sleeping mats. He's cut it himself. You spread it around, layer it under the cloth, and breathe deep. Still faintly green. Still crisp. Not yet tainted. You lie down in it, scratch your knee out of habit, and close your eyes. You feel the clean spots, the smoothness behind your ears, the warmth on your shoulders, the faint minty burn in your palms. And for a moment, despite the lice, despite the mud, despite the bucket of waste that waits behind the house, you feel almost pure. You wake to birdsong, real birdsong, not just a distant crow or the shriek of a rooster, but a chorus of larks and thrushes trilling into the pink morning. The kind of sound that for a second makes you forget your back itches, your knee is sore, and there's likely a fresh nest of lice colonizing your scalp. but then you stretch, and the crusted edge of your tunic grazes your neck, and reality returns with its usual earthy scent. The house smells tolerable. The pot by the hearth has been cleaned. Your mother scrubbed it with sand and vinegar the night before, and the ash pile has been shoveled out into the garden. That helps. The new straw under the bedding still gives off its faint, grassy perfume. Someone, probably your sister, hung rosemary by the window. You can still smell smoke and sweat, and the sour ghost of boiled cabbage, but it's not overwhelming. You run a hand through your hair and feel the telltale scuttling of a louse. Just one. You pluck it, crush it between your fingernails, and flick the body into the fire. There's no panic, no disgust, just routine. Outside the yard is soaked with dew. Chickens mill about pecking at the packed earth. The pig is asleep on her side, snoring loudly. You head for the stream with a bar of precious soap, goat tallow, and old lye hardened, and used so often, it's become a misshapen nub. Today your mother has allowed you the rare task of washing your tunic. You remove it by the water crouching in your undershift and begin scrubbing it over a flat rock. The stream gurgles softly beside you, carrying flecks of wool and bits of embedded dirt away. You rub the soap across the collar and cuffs. Those are always the worst, and then dunk the whole thing, twisting and slapping it against the stone until your arms ache. The water turns gray, then brown. You rinse and rinse until the tunic looks mostly the same but feels lighter in your hands. Cleanliness isn't about appearances. It's about texture. It's about weight. You wring it out and drape it over a tree branch, watching droplets fall like tired beads of light. The sun is just warm enough now to promise it will dry by midday. Maybe. On your way back, you hear shouting from the lane. A neighbor's goat has escaped again. It trots through the cabbage patch, knocking over baskets and dragging a length of broken rope. Several children give chase, laughing their bare feet, kicking up dust. You smile. Briefly. At home, the morning chores begin. Your brother is tasked with sweeping. Your sister is scrubbing the bench where your father spilled oil last night. You're assigned to help with the wash basin, the one used for hands, faces, and sometimes feet if someone's been limping too long. You carry water from the stream 3 trips with a sloshing pail. Your mother adds it to the wide clay basin and stirs in a handful of dried thyme. The scent rises quickly, sharp and herbal. She dips a rag and begins wiping the children's arms and faces. You take over halfway through. The rag is clean at first, then turns brown, then black. You rinse it between each use, shake it out, and keep going. Clean skin isn't the goal. Cooler skin, fresher skin that doesn't smell like rot, that's the real aim. Once done, you dump the basin out behind the hut and leave it upside down to dry. The goats lick at the wet ground, confused. Inside, your mother is making a salve. She works with focus, grinding herbs with oil in a small mortar. She spreads it over strips of cloth and hands you a bundle. For the sore, she says, nodding to your knee. You peel back the corner of your tunic to reveal the rash, red, scaly weeping at the edges. She applies the cloth gently. It stings, but then soothes. You let it dry too long, she scolds. You nod. She's right. Later that afternoon, someone spots a monk walking toward the village from the east. He carries a staff and wears a faded gray robe. A cross dangles from his belt, and his feet are bare. You and a few others gather to meet him. He speaks of penance and cleanliness, of washing the body as a mirror of washing the soul. He smells of beeswax and incense. His hands are blistered. He's traveled far. He's offered a place in the chapel for the night. You watch as the priest hands him a bucket of warm water. He thanks him, and steps inside the church. You wonder if he'll truly wash or just wipe his face like the rest of you. That night your tunic is dry. You lift it from the branch, shake off the dust, and hold it up. It smells of stream water thyme and faintly of sun. It's still stained, still stiff in places, but it feels cleaner, and that's enough. You slip it over your head and lie down on the bedding. The pine has flattened. The itch is back. But beneath it, you still feel the memory of the stream, the soap, the way your arms smelled of rosemary and bark. You press your cheek to the cloth and exhale slowly. It won't last. It never does. But for tonight, it lingers. You wake to the sound of coughing. Not yours this time. It's your brother's, a dry, rasping hack that echoes against the timbered walls of the hut. He's curled under the wool blanket, cheeks flushed and sticky with sweat. Your mother leans over him, holding a cloth to his forehead, muttering under her breath. The air in the room is thick. You feel it clinging to your skin, heavier than the blanket. Someone forgot to open the shutters. The hearth is smoking again. The bedding smells sour. You sit up slowly. The rash on your knee is back angrier now, crusted at the edges. You'll rewrap it after the fire's been stoked and the water's warm. For now you focus on the rhythm of the room, your mother's breathing, the fire crackling low, and the wet, choking cough that punctuates it all. You stand, stretch, and move toward the door. Your tunic has grown stiff again overnight. It smells of dust and old sweat and pine that's long since faded. You open the shutter and let in a blade of sunlight. It slices across the smoke like a sword. Outside, the world is still wet from last night's rain. The yard is a stew of mud droppings and scattered straw. The dog is curled by the door, his coat matted with brambles. He lifts his head as you step over him, then lets it fall again. You walk to the water barrel. It's nearly empty. The last few inches are cloudy. Still, you scoop some into the clay pitcher and carry it inside. Your mother pours it into the iron pot to heat, then adds dried yarrow and crushed plantain leaves. She's making a fever wash. You've seen her do this before. The herbs don't cure, but they comfort. And comfort is often the only thing left to offer. While the water heats, you fetch the vinegar jug from the shelf. The wooden stopper is stained dark from years of use. You pour a bit into a bowl, add a cloth, and begin wiping the surface's tabletop bench, even the edge of the hearth. The vinegar stings your nostrils but leaves behind a sharp, clean scent. You bring the cloth to your own face, press it to your cheek. The coolness seeps into your pores. You run it along your arms, behind your ears, across your neck. You imagine briefly that this is what rich folk feel when they bathe in tubs of rose water. The coughing doesn't stop. Your brother's face glistens with sweat. You help your mother change his shift strip off the damp linen, wipe his chest slide on a fresh one from the line. The fabric is cold, but it's dry. Afterwards, you clean the chamber pot. No one asks. It's just your turn. The contents slosh with every step. You carry it behind the house past the midden to the shallow trench lined with straw and ash. You pour, careful not to spill. The flies buzz, instantly drawn to the warmth and the stink. You rinse the pot with leftover gray water, then with a trickle from the barrel. The second rinse is a luxury, but your mother allows it when there's sickness in the house. Disease travels fast. Through hands, through breath, through air that feels too still. Back inside, you help sweep. You use the old broom, the bristles worn to stubs. You push soot crumbs and flakes of dried skin toward the door. The dust rises and dances in the sunlight. You sneeze. Your sister laughs and hands you a cloth to blow your nose. Later, you help your father boil water for laundry. The 6 shifts are soaked with sweat. He builds a small fire outside beneath the iron tripod and balances the pot on top. You stir with a stick as the steam rolls into your face. The smell of wet wool lye and fever herbs wraps around you like a fog. The water turns yellow. You keep stirring. By mid-afternoon, the sun has burned away the clouds. You carry the laundry to the line, wet tunics, rags, underthings, and hang them with care. Each drip lands in the mud like a whisper. You take a moment to rub your hands together. They're red raw, scraped by sand soap and cold. You hold them up to the sun and hope its warmth will soak into your bones. Inside, your brother sleeps. Your mother dozes beside him upright in her chair, a cloth still clutched in her lap. The room smells better now. Not clean exactly, but calmer. The air has shifted. You boil another pot of water and use it to wipe your feet. They're cracked again, mud sweat and rough shoes. You smear lard across the worst spots, wrap them in linen, and pull on your boots while the fat is still warm. At sundown, the priest arrives with a vial of oil. He blesses the sick room, murmurs a prayer, and anoints your brother's forehead. You watch in silence, unsure if the gesture is meant to heal or to prepare for death. You've seen it used both ways. The priest smells of incense. His hands are clean, his nails trimmed. You feel self-conscious, suddenly aware of the dirt under your own. You hide your hands beneath the table. That night, your family eats in silence barley gruel again, with a single slice of onion between you all. The candle flickers. The dog licks the bowl when it's empty. Your mother brushes the crumbs from the floor with her hand. You sleep lighter than usual, waking at every cough. But your brother's breathing sounds easier. He doesn't moan. His face is pale but cool. You reach over and press the back of your hand to his forehead. Dry. You exhale slowly and roll onto your side. Outside, the night is quiet. For now, at least, the fever has broken. The next morning is unusually quiet. Not the good kind of quiet, more the tense, uncertain kind that lingers when no one's sure if something is over or just taking a breath. You wake slowly, blinking in the dim half-light, and realize your brother is still asleep beside you. Deeply asleep. No coughing, no tossing, no sweat. Just breathing so long, steady, peaceful. Your mother notices too. She kneels by him, brushes the hair from his forehead, and lays her palm against his skin. No fever, not even a flush. Her shoulders ease for the first time in days. She doesn't say a word, just stands and starts boiling water for tea. You sit up, run your hands through your hair, and find a surprise. It's not crawling, or at least not as much. Maybe the combing, the vinegar, the sun, and time have all worked together. Maybe you've just gotten used to the feeling. You scratch behind your ear anyway, just to be sure. It's sore, but the scab's healing. A victory, however small. Today is the day for the village clean. It happens once each season, and not because anyone believes it's especially effective, more because it's expected. It's the one day when nearly every family makes a visible effort to clear their doorstep, rake their paths, clean out their middens, and pretend the mud and waste don't climb back overnight. You join your father in hauling ash to the pit. You scatter it along the latrine trench, the midden edge, the chicken coop. Ash absorbs the worst smells, kills the maggots, makes it easier to pretend things are under control. Your sister takes a bundle of rags soaked in vinegar and scrubs the table, the door latch, and the bench. Your mother throws open the shutters, flapping the bedding in the sun, shaking out days of dust and skin flakes. She mutters about airing the bad spirits, though you suspect it's more about the stench. By midday, the village begins to change. Not dramatically, but subtly. Smoke no longer leaks from every chimney. Wet laundry flaps in the breeze, stained but lifted toward the sun like pennants of effort. You see neighbors brushing their children's hair on front steps, checking for lice, combing and squinting and pinching. The reeve walks through with the priest, not to inspect, but to be seen. Their presence reminds everyone cleanliness, however relative, is godliness. You eat lunch with dirt still under your nails, but the bread is fresh and your mother has steeped a tea of mint and dried lemon balm. You drink slowly. It tastes like something clean should feel bright, bitter, warm. After lunch, the children are sent to gather reeds from the stream bank. The reeds are used for many things, weaving baskets, lining floors, and sometimes, when you're lucky, as makeshift scrub brushes. You tie yours into bundles and hand them to your mother, who drops them into the new straw bedding like she's sowing seeds. A few drops of rosemary oil, a precious luxury, are drizzled across them. The hut smells like something more than survival for a change. It smells like intention. You're sent to wash again. Not your body, there's no water for full bathing, but your hands, face, and feet. The rain barrel has filled from last night's storm, and the water is icy cold. You strip to the waist, splash yourself, rub your neck and underarms with mint and sand. You grit your teeth and dunk your feet. The pain is sharp, but when you pull them out, they feel new. Less like hooves, more like feet. Your sister does the same. Her braids have been combed flat, and she's tied a scrap of linen around her wrist, soaked in vinegar, to keep the smell of others at bay. It works, she says, inhaling deeply and scrunching her nose. Sometimes. Even the dog gets a rinse today. Your father throws a bucket of water over him, and he runs barking and twisting before rolling in the dirt again. So much for that. In the evening, the chapel bell rings again. This time it's not for mass or mourning, but for blessing. The priest steps into the square, swinging his censer. Incense rises like fog. You catch the scent of clove and burning straw. Each family steps forward. He sprinkles holy water, recites verses. You stand beside your siblings as the droplets hit your face, your tunic, your open hands. It's not meant to wash, but it feels like a rinse of something, fear, maybe, or weariness. Your mother whispers a prayer under her breath. Your brother stands, finally. He's pale, thin, but upright. That's enough. Afterward, there's music. Not much, just a cracked lute and a fiddle missing a string, but someone plays and someone else claps, and a girl in a patched tunic dances in a slow circle with her little sister. You sit on the edge of the bench and watch. You think about how many days it's been since you felt clean, truly clean. You can't remember, but you feel something close to it now. Not from soap, not from scrubbing, from the smell of rosemary and ash, from your sister's brushed hair, from the memory of water over your feet, from your brother's steady breathing in the night. That night, you lie down early. You listen to the quiet. The dog snores. The baby stirs. The wind moves softly through the shutters. You close your eyes and sleep for once without scratching. The next few days slide by in a rhythm you know too well, rise with the light, tend to the animals, sweep, scrape, wash, what little can be washed and survive the rest. But something is different now. Not in the hut, not even in the straw under your back, but in you. A kind of awareness. You've started to notice the moments between the chores, the pauses when clean air finds its way through the smoke, when the barrel water tastes less like wood and more like rain. When your hands raw and cracked, still manage to feel soft after mint and vinegar. But as always, this small piece is temporary. It starts with your neighbor's boy. He's been missing from the path to the stream. No chores, no laughter. Then one evening your sister comes back from fetching water and whispers to your mother that she saw him wrapped in cloth, his face pale, his lips chapped. He didn't move, she says, and your mother goes still, for a long time. You've seen sickness before, but it never stops being terrifying. It always begins the same. Someone stops attending church. Someone doesn't show at the stream. The door to a hut stays shut too long, and when it opens again, someone's missing. Your mother starts boiling water constantly. She moves with sharp, deliberate urgency. Cloth is soaked, wrung, hung, burned. She sets a pot of vinegar near the fire, lets it steam all day. She crushes garlic, smears it along the window frame, muttering prayers as she works. You're told not to visit friends, not to linger at the well, not to go near the chapel. You stay inside more. You scratch more too. Stress does that. You sleep in your tunic again, even though it's damp from the day. Your mother doesn't want too many clothes mingling. She hangs them over the fire, but the air is wet, heavy. They never really dry. The fire blazes longer these days. Smoke clings to everything, your hair, your skin, the blankets. But your mother swears it helps. Smoke pushes sickness back, she says. It hates heat. You're not sure if that's true, but you huddle closer to it anyway. There's another rule now, no sharing of food outside the house. No communal bowls, no passing of bread. It makes meals awkward, quiet, and quick. You eat your barley gruel and chew slowly, watching the steam rise from your bowl. You dip your spoon in vinegar water before you eat, just in case. Everyone does. Bathing becomes rarer. Not for lack of trying, but because water is suddenly sacred. You need it for rinsing hands, for steeping herbs, for boiling linens. There's no time for luxury. You scrub your arms with sand and thyme, trying to pretend it's enough. Your hair, once briefly calm, begins to itch again. Lice don't wait for sickness to pass. You catch your father crushing rosemary with his boot, then rubbing it into his collar. You do the same. At night you hear coughing. Not from your brother, he's well now, but from another hut somewhere nearby. A woman's voice wheezing tight. It goes on for hours, then stops suddenly. You lie awake staring at the roof beams. In the morning the bell tolls once. Not for mass. Just once. You carry ash to the trench with your father, neither of you speaking. The air smells of iron and damp wool. Even the dog walks quietly today. You return and wash your hands with vinegar. You press your wet palms to your face and breathe deeply. You wonder what clean even means now. It's not a scrubbed face. It's not perfumed soap or lavender oil. It's survival. Clean is avoiding the next fever. Clean is not sharing your spoon. Clean is not burying another neighbor. You help your mother hang the washed cloths near the fire. You keep the children from touching anything with bare hands. You sweep twice a day instead of once. You scrub the chamber pot until your knuckles bleed. That night, you cut a fresh bundle of pine needles and slip them into your bedding. You crush them with your fists, first releasing the scent. It bites your nose. It makes your eyes water. But you don't stop. You sleep in the same tunic again. It smells of smoke and sweat and pine. You lie in the dark and scratch one arm, then the other. And then you stop, not because the itch is gone, but because you've gotten used to it. Because in a world where everything itches, noticing it is a luxury. You close your eyes, listening to the wind press against the shutters. another day clean. Clean enough. By the time the 12th week rolls in, the rhythm of dirt and effort has dulled the sharp edge of your expectations. You no longer dream of cleanliness in the way you once did. The word has shifted. Once it meant a bath, a comb, soap that lathered into soft white bubbles. Now it means one more day without fever, without red streaks crawling up your leg, without sour rot in your armpits. This morning, you awaken with the faintest sense of clarity. Your eyes don't sting as much, the bedding hasn't molded through the night, and even the smoke from the hearth seems to drift upward instead of curling into your face. The dog stretches and thumps his tail in his sleep. Even he smells tolerable. You rub your eyes, stretch your limbs, and glance toward your mother, who's already kneeling near the fire. She's washing her hands with lye water, scrubbing furiously at her nails with a twig, her brow tight with worry. Someone else must have taken ill. It doesn't surprise you anymore. The sickness skips through the village like a mischievous child, unpredictable, laughing in corners, always hiding in breath or water or touch. You rinse your mouth with vinegar, swish it like your mother taught you, and spit into the embers. The fire hisses. You wipe your lips with the edge of your tunic. It doesn't help with the taste in your mouth, days of stale bread and pickled onions, but it gives the illusion of care, of trying. Your next task is bed straw. Again, the pine needles you crushed last week have lost their scent. Now they just itch. You roll back the cloth, pull up handfuls of flattened, greasy straw, and carry it out in a basket. It's heavy with night sweat and dog hair and skin flakes. You dump it near the ash pile, then rake together a new heap from what's left in the shed. It smells better. Not fresh, but earthy. You scatter some rosemary stems between the layers, then douse the edges with vinegar. It helps with fleas. A little. Inside, your mother is boiling water again. You see the thin steam rising from the pot, winding around her like a veil. She's preparing another batch of cloths. Soaking, wringing, hanging. You take your place beside her, dipping rags into the scalding water, then snapping them against the edge of the basin to dry them faster. The heat makes your hands raw again. You don't flinch. There's no time for flinching. Later, the neighbor stops by. Her hands are wrapped in linen. Blisters. From scrubbing the latrine pit. She exchanges news, more coughing, 2 deaths, the chapel closed until further notice. Your mother nods, thanks her, and offers her some garlic paste for her hands. You help her tie the cloth around them. Her fingernails are black with soil, but you don't flinch from the touch. After she leaves, you open the shutters again. The sun slices through the hut. Dust hangs in the air like soft sparks. You see it everywhere, the particles of living. Skin, cloth, ash. Every bit of it settling quietly onto surfaces you'll wipe again tomorrow. You decide to clean the combs today. The bone one has teeth missing. The wooden one is warped. Still, they're better than fingers. You boil water, add rosemary, drop the combs in, then scrub them with a rag and a twig, picking out the clumps of hair and whatever else crawled in over the week. You lay them out on the hearth to dry. At midday, your father returns from the woods with a bundle of moss. Good spongy moss. Not just for bedding or shoes, but for cleaning wounds. Your sister cut her foot on a rusted hinge, and you've been watching it closely every day, checking for streaks, for pus, for heat. You help your mother unwrap it. The skin is raw, but not angry. You press a layer of moss onto it and tie it in place with a strip of boiled cloth. Your sister winces, but doesn't cry. She knows better. You give her the cleanest seat beside the fire with the vinegar jar nearby. It smells strong in here now. The smoke, the herbs, the lye. Your head aches a little, but it's better than rot. That afternoon, you rinse the chamber pot again. You know the routine out behind the hut downwind, pour into the trench. Rinse. Scrub. Try not to breathe too deep. Try not to let it splash. You remember once seeing a rat poke its head from the trench, eyes bright face, slick with waste. You haven't seen it again, but the memory is enough to make your stomach twist. You return inside, splash your hands in vinegar, and dry them by the fire. At sunset, the clouds part for just a moment, and the light turns golden. Your sister points it out, and for a second the hut glows. Everything, your mother's gray hair, the soot on the hearthstones, even the comb drying on the ledge, shines like it's been touched by something divine. You all stop and look. And then it fades. That night, your father replaces the straw beneath the sleeping mat. The fresh layer crunches when you lie down. It smells faintly of pine and vinegar. Your sister curls beside you, her bandaged foot tucked beneath her tunic. She doesn't shiver tonight. The fire burns steady. No coughing. Just the pop of kindling and the dog's sigh. You scratch your scalp lazily, more from habit than need. Your skin smells of lye and smoke and old rosemary. You close your eyes. It's not clean, but it's clean enough to rest. Morning begins with a silence that doesn't feel right. You blink awake in the gray half-light, confused by the stillness. No clattering pot, no creaking door, no rooster. Even the dog isn't snoring. The fire's gone out, and the air is colder than usual, hanging in the hut, like breath held too long. You sit up listening. You hear your sister's steady breathing beside you, your brother's quiet sigh. But nothing else. Then comes the sound you dread most, your mother coughing. Not just the dry, tired cough you've heard 1,000 times, but a new one. Deep, wet, shuddering. You rise slowly, the straw crackling beneath your weight, and shuffle toward the hearth. She's sitting upright in her stool shawl, wrapped tight, staring into the cold ashes of the firebox. Her face is pale. Her eyes glisten. You know this cough. You've heard it in other houses, seen it change families overnight. Still, she waves you off. Just the smoke, she says hoarsely. The smoke from yesterday. But there was no smoke yesterday. Your father gets the fire going. You crush dried pine cones and twigs together, coaxing sparks with a flint. The hearth groans back to life, slowly reluctant like everything else in this hut. Soon the smell of ash pine and damp cloth fills the air again. You boil water, you slice ginger root mash, garlic crush, dried thyme. Your hands move on instinct. This is what you do when someone's lungs start to fill. No one talks much today. Your sister takes over the bedding, airing it out in the cold wind. Your brother fetches water slowly. You clean. That's all you do, scrubbing surfaces, rinsing cloths, dipping rags in vinegar and pressing them to the wooden beams. You even clean the inside of the door latch. It doesn't matter if it helps. It gives you something to do with the fear. Your mother lies down by midday. She never does that. The dog curls at her feet. You cook a thin soup, just leek tops, onion peel, and a spoon of lard, but she only swallows a few sips. She asks for the rosemary oil. You bring it. She dabs a bit under her nose. Helps with the stink, she mutters. You pretend not to hear how faint her voice sounds. When the priest arrives at dusk, he brings oil again. He kneels by your mother, murmuring Latin blessings. You watch, perched on the edge of the bench, your nails digging into your palms. She closes her eyes while he anoints her forehead, and for a moment, the hut feels colder than the outside wind. That night she sleeps beside the fire. You keep the pot boiling herbs and vinegar steeping in the air until your eyes burn. You wipe her face with a clean cloth every few hours. She sweats, then shivers, then sweats again. Still, the hut stays quiet. You think of all the things you've learned about hygiene. The combing, the vinegar, the garlic, the soap that doesn't foam, the straw that needs replacing before the rot sets in. You think about how you've tried in your own way to stay clean, not because anyone expects it, but because it's all you can control. Clean hands, clean cloth, clean air. They won't save you, but they give you space to breathe. At some point in the middle of the night, your sister comes to sit by you. She doesn't speak. She just wraps a cloth around your shoulders and leans her head on your arm. The candle burns low. You don't refill it. You think about the first time you saw your mother boil water for lye soap. You were 5. The scent stung your nose and you asked her if fire had a taste. She laughed and said, yes. It tastes like hope. You close your eyes and hold on to that. The next morning, your mother is still breathing. Shallow but steady. Her lips are dry, cracked, but she smiles when she sees you. Still here, she whispers. You nod. You don't cry. You get to work. More vinegar. More herbs. Another cloth steeped in thyme. You toss the old straw, sweep the floor, twice open every shutter light. Another candle even though there's barely enough wax left. That day you clean with a purpose fiercer than any before. Not just to survive, but to fight. To push back the weight of decay and filth, and whatever spirit it is that moves from house to house, dragging sickness behind it like a veil. You wash your hands 7 times. You comb your hair until the lice stop falling. You find the old sliver of lye soap, and even though it barely lathers, you rub it across your arms and neck until the skin stings. When you lie down that night, you wrap your sister's blanket around her and sleep with just your tunic. The straw under you smells faintly of vinegar and rosemary. The fire still glows, and your mother is still breathing. Clean isn't just about dirt. It's about defiance. The days that follow blend together not in idleness but in repetition. Water boil, wring, sweep, rinse, repeat. You're no longer just tending to your own cleanliness. You've taken up your mother's post, unspoken but clear. She's recovering but slowly, and every movement costs her breath. So you rise before the others draw water from the stream, while mist still lingers over the earth, and start the fire before your sister's eyes even flutter open. Clean has become something larger than hygiene. It's a rhythm, a duty. It's how you hold the line between the living and the sickness waiting just beyond your threshold. You begin each morning with vinegar and ash. A rag dipped and wrung and drawn across door latches corners the underside of benches. You've memorized the creaks in the floorboards and know where dust tends to settle. You've become a guardian of surfaces. The children help now, too. Your brother, barely old enough to know why, has learned to shake out his shift each morning and leave his boots upside down to dry. Your sister, bandage-free at last, takes to brushing out the straw bedding with a fir branch like she's scouring sin from holy ground. Even your father scrapes his boots each night before entering the hut. You don't speak of fear anymore. Fear is there, it lives beneath the floorboards, but it has no voice. And then one morning you find yourself holding the old comb in your lap, running your fingers along the worn teeth, and realizing that your hair isn't crawling. Not even a little. You pass it to your sister. She grins. No bugs, she says, beaming like she's just been handed a silver coin. The two of you laugh until your stomach aches. It feels foreign, this sudden burst of joy, but you let it linger. That day your mother rises and sweeps. She does it slowly, her body hunched and stiff, but she does it. And that more than any herb or boiled rag is the clearest sign that something's shifting. You all watch, not wanting to overwhelm her, as she takes the broom, crosses it against the floor, and begins that ancient ritual of scraping away yesterday's dust. In the afternoon, you wash every cup in the house. Not because they're especially dirty, though, to be honest they are, but because you want to see the bottom of them again. You soak them in boiled water with crushed mint, scrub them with a wool rag, then leave them drying on a flat stone outside. You brush your teeth with a mixture of salt and ashes. The paste tastes terrible, but you've grown to love that burn. It means your gums are still alive. Your mother even smiles when she sees it. Monks use that, she says, half joking. Maybe you'll become one. You don't answer, but you hold the smile. Later the priest returns to the village. He smells like the same mix of herbs you've been boiling for weeks. You wonder if he's learned from all of you. He says a few words over the square, praises the families for their resilience, then places rosemary bundles on the chapel's stone steps as a symbol of thanksgiving. No one hugs. No one shakes hands. But there's a warmth in the air that has nothing to do with the sun. That evening, your father takes you to the stream, not for water, but for a ritual bath. Not just you, all of you. It's rare, almost sacred. Each person is given a turn with the small block of preserved lye soap. You strip behind a thicket of reeds and step into the current, gasping as the cold rushes around your knees. You scrub your arms, your chest, your scalp furiously, methodically, like peeling away a season's worth of fear. You help your sister do the same. She's quiet, eyes closed, lips pressed together, but she doesn't flinch when the cold touches her wounds. Your father washes last, then tosses the soap onto the rock, where it dries like a sun-bleached talisman. When you walk back home, your tunics cling to your skin. You're shivering wet, laughing despite yourself. The dog barks and runs ahead, the last of the sun painting the path gold. You smell of river and rosemary and smoke. That night the bedding is fresh, real fresh. You replaced the straw again this morning, weaving in crushed juniper and bits of dried mint. It's sharp, clean, alive. The hut smells like a place that chooses to fight back, like a place that dares not to rot. As the fire dims and your sister breathes steady beside you, you run a hand through your hair. Still no lice. You touch your knee, no rash. You press your fingers to your neck. Your skin is warm, not feverish. Your pulse is steady. For the first time in months, you lie in the straw and don't brace for the itch, the cough, the creeping dread that something filthy is still hiding beneath the surface. You just lie there, breathing in what cleanliness really means now. Not an absence of filth, but a practice of care, a ritual of resistance, and somehow, peace. By the time the 15th section of your long, grimy journey unfolds, something remarkable has happened. You no longer view hygiene as a burden. It's not just work or ritual anymore. It's become your quiet power. A secret daily defiance against the rot, the fever, and the slow decay that so easily eats away at lives in your world. The cold has returned crisp and sharp, carrying with it the smell of snow on distant hills. Each morning begins with mist curling low over the ground, freezing to the edges of the water barrel and crystallizing in the goat's whiskers. You wake with your breath visible, curling upward, and your tunic stiff with the cold. But the air inside the hut is bearable. The fire stays banked all night now, thanks to your father's careful layering of logs and embers. There's less smoke, less wheezing, The straw under your back is changed weekly without anyone needing to say it. The broom is no longer kept behind the door. It's hung proudly by the fire, its bristles trimmed and clean. The once grimy wash basin is stained, yes, but well kept, rinsed every night with ash water and vinegar. It doesn't mean you're clean by any modern measure. Not by a long shot. Your fingernails are black by midday. You still share a bucket for waste. Your clothes smell of wool and smoke and sometimes worse. But you've come to understand what it means to be clean enough. Not sterile, not spotless, but resilient, awake, deliberate. Today is market day again, and this time there's more purpose to it. Your mother is stronger. She walks on her own, bundled tightly, her steps slow but proud. You walk beside her, carrying the basket, not to sell, but to exchange. You bring dried herbs, crushed garlic, and a little rosemary oil sealed in waxcloth. In return, you hope to get a few eggs, maybe some beeswax, maybe even a scrap of wool. Anything that might help keep the hut warm and the skin protected as winter descends. At the square, you notice something strange. Everyone's brighter. Not just healthier, but cleaner. Tunics are less caked in mud. Children's hair is neatly combed. You see a boy with a strip of linen wrapped around his hands, not from injury, but scented with something rosemary, perhaps. The scent floats through the chill air. There's still suffering, of course. One woman wears mourning gray, a sign of recent loss. Another man coughs into his sleeve. But even these gestures are careful practiced. They speak of people who've learned how to live alongside dirt without being defeated by it. You trade your herbs for a small hunk of soap. Real soap, pale and dry, pressed in a mold that suggests someone nearby has rediscovered how to make it. You run your fingers along its ridges. It smells like lye lemon balm and maybe a hint of sage. You nod your thanks and place it gently in the basket, like treasure. That evening, your family gathers around the fire, not for fear or warmth alone, but to talk. Just talk. Your father shares news of a new drainage ditch being dug near the chapel. Your mother says the moss lining your boots has kept them dry all week. Your sister laughs and claims the dog is cleaner than half the village now. The dog wags his tail, stretches out by the fire, and sighs contentedly. Before bed, you take a damp cloth warmed by the hearth and wash your feet, one at a time, slow, gentle. You wipe behind your ears. You comb your hair again, only a few flecks of dandruff, now no lice. You smile, not out of vanity, but out of quiet relief. You lie down and breathe in. The bedding smells of crushed mint and pine needles. The hut is still save for the low hiss of the fire and your brother's rhythmic snore. The wind whispers beyond the shutters. And then you realize you've made it. Not just through illness or infestation, but through the worst of what this life could throw at you. Not by magic, not by luck, but by simple, stubborn acts of care. By keeping your hands busy, your hearth hot, your straw fresh, your comb clean. You reach for the soap, hold it close, press it to your nose. It's not much, but it's enough. And in this quiet corner of a filthy world, enough is everything. And now as the fire dies down and your breath slows with the cooling air, you can rest. You've walked through the mud of medieval life, scratched at your skin with lye and sand-boiled rags soaked in vinegar, and washed away not just the dirt, but the fear of what it meant to survive in a world with no drains, no plumbing, and precious little soap. You've stood over boiling pots of herbs, chased lice with dull combs, and scrubbed chamber pots with the determined grace of someone who knew. It was the only line of defense between sickness and life. But through it all, you didn't just survive, you kept something sacred alive, a sense of dignity. Hygiene wasn't about looking nice. It was a rebellion against decay, a way of saying, I'm still here. So now, wrapped in the quiet with the scent of rosemary and wood smoke still clinging to the air, you can breathe a little easier. Your body may ache, your tunic may still itch, but your soul has been scrubbed by the raw, honest labor of care. You did your part. You kept your family whole, and you learned that in a time when death came knocking more often than the rain, a clean basin, a combed head, and a change of straw could be the fiercest acts of love imaginable. So sleep now, traveler of the past. Let the flicker of the firelight dim behind your closed eyes. The lice are gone, the fever has passed, and tomorrow the basin will be filled again. But not tonight. Tonight you rest.